Hey everybody, Spence Life Coaching here. This is the Life Lessons Podcast. My name is Doug Spence. Today I want to talk a little bit about dealing with difficult people. And that's how we typically think of things. We typically think of he's a difficult person, she's a difficult person, and now we have to deal with this difficult person, right? This is the main way of, thinking of these kind of problems. So I want to give you a new perspective on this idea of dealing with difficult people. And I want to talk about a new way of thinking about it is the person difficult, or is it your reaction to the person that's difficult? So the person is doing or not doing something. They're doing an action. It could be yelling. It could be criticizing. It could be a lack of something that you're expecting. It could be a lack of communication. It could be a lack of even praise. It could be a lack of appreciation that you're perceiving. And because of this action or this inaction, you are feeling something, and the feeling is difficult. The reaction that you have is a thought and a perception, and your own thought and perception is causing the feeling, and that is difficult. So if you react with fear, that is going to be difficult. And if you react with anger, that is going to be difficult for you. But what happens instead of reacting with fear or anger or any other emotion, painful emotion, what if you were to react with love? What if you were to react with compassion? So when someone is being difficult, let's call it, they are generally in some state of pain. They are anxious or afraid or under some kind of pressure or stressed out in general, or there's something happening in their lives or in their business. Whatever it is, they're in a high state of anxiety or in a low state of fear or anger, and they're already reacting. They're reacting to something else, which is causing their pain, and then they may act or not act in action in a certain way and then you have the choice to react or to not react to that, and you get to choose how you react to that. So you're taking responsibility for your own feelings, which puts you in control. So when I say react with love, you separate yourself from the situation and you see things from a greater perspective, from a higher perspective, from a more infinite perspective. You see yourself and you see them and you see who is suffering in this situation. And is my reaction going to help to ease the pain and suffering? Or is my reaction going to perpetuate more pain and suffering? Well, if you react with fear or anger, you're going to perpetuate fear and anger. Okay, and on a small scale, this is a fight between, two people, or within a family, or within a work environment, within a business. But on a large scale, reacting with fear and anger results in war. So people go to war and start killing each other because they are reacting out of fear or anger, whether they're afraid or angry at their supposed enemy, or they're in fear of their own government. And if they don't go to war, they're afraid of the consequences that are going to happen to them. So fear and anger perpetuate suffering. So before you react, and use the mindfulness techniques that I was teaching you before, be present in the now, to monitor your own thoughts, and notice when you're starting to react, and notice when you're starting to react with pain. And ask yourself, how do I want to react? Do I want to perpetuate this, or do I want to react with love and compassion? It doesn't mean that the other person is going to change what they're doing, how they're behaving. They have their own shit to work out. They can work it out on their own. They can work it out with your help as well. And it doesn't make it wrong if you react with fear or anger either. Fear and anger does have a purpose. So if you do react with fear and anger, just realize that you're creating your own pain. There are situations where you react with fear and anger, and those situations are completely necessary. And every emotion has a purpose. So if you react with fear, that may save your life. If you react with anger, that may save your life. If you're one who doesn't speak up and say what you're thinking, sometimes reacting with a bit of anger can get you to finally speak your mind and finally express yourself authentically, which may be something you were holding back on because of your fear. Anger is a level above fear. So if you're afraid, you may be holding back on your voice, and anger going up one level may give you enough energy to speak up. And that may benefit the situation. That may benefit you. It's when we get caught up in this unconscious cycle of fear and anger and suffering, and we're completely unaware. It's all happening. We're completely asleep to the situation and what's happening, and we start to blame it on the external circumstances. We start blaming our own feelings on the external world, the external circumstances, and other people. and then we become a victim. And then we become disempowered. And from this position, we're not in a position to create and to be in control and to begin creating and influencing our reality. So make your boundaries clear. You can also shine, instead of reacting like you can react with love and compassion. But what does that look like? Sometimes that could look like simply observing the other person's feelings in your mind without even saying anything. Just noticing the other person's feelings. Noticing that they are in pain. Just looking at them and seeing them with compassion and thinking to yourself, this person's really in pain. Look at how they're acting. You can also verbalize your observation if you feel that is a wise thing to do at the time. And you can say, seems like you're under a lot of pressure. Seems like you're feeling stressed out today. Or you can even go as far as saying, like, seems like you're in a lot of pain. So whatever it is, you can use seems like, you can use looks like, sounds like, seems like, looks like, sounds like, and just you can verbalize your observation about the other person's feelings. Seems like you're kind of anxious today. Seems like you're stressed out. You can't predict how they're going to react when you say this. They may react favorably. They may react unfavorably. But you're shining the light of awareness on them. You're helping them to look inwards and to start observing their own feelings. And when they start to observe themselves and they feel seen, that helps them to become more self-aware. You're helping them to be mindful, to put their awareness on themselves, and to look inward. A lot of the time, people are just looking outward. 90% of the time, 100% of the time, they're looking outward, and they're just reacting. But once they start to look inward and seeing the mechanics of their mind, that something happens on the outside, then they perceive it, and then something happens on the inside. This is looking inward and observing themselves. They can start to become more self-aware about how their own reactions, their own perceptions are causing their own feelings. So one of the reasons that make these people difficult, other than, your own reaction is what you're dealing with, which is difficult to deal with, is your own reaction is difficult to deal with. And to start to resolve this conflict that you're feeling with this person and you're feeling inside of yourself, you have to break your judgment of them. So when someone does something to us, we will judge them. And we do this a number of ways, but typically it shows up as name calling or labeling. We'll call them an asshole or a jerk, or, you know, I don't want to say too much, but we'll call them names. We'll label them cruel or inconsiderate or a variety of other names. And what happens when we label another person negatively? We're judging them, and we're putting them in a little box and a little category in our mind. And whenever we interact with them, this decision, this judgment is a decision. It's there, it's programmed into our mind, and we subconsciously begin to act on it. And the other person subconsciously picks up on our judgment of them. So we sort of create, because we've judged them in a negative light, now we begin to create this self-fulfilling prophecy, this cycle. And when we judge someone else, they'll probably start reacting to us, and they may judge us. So now you have two people with a very limited perspective, a very limited perception of each other. And this creates a dynamic which perpetuates conflict. So how do we break this conflict? And we have to break the judgment, break the label. So when we can get triggered by an infinite number of behaviors. So we have to look at the specific behavior that triggered us. It may be the criticism. It may be the tone of voice. It may be a physical action. It may be... So what you want to do is you want to look at the trait or the action or the inaction that is triggering you. So go to the moment when you felt triggered with this person and look at the trait, action, or inaction that they're doing. They didn't call me back. It could be as simple as that. A lack of action, right? They didn't call me back. They didn't get me a present for my birthday, right? Or it could be an action. They spoke harshly to me, right? So look at exactly what trait, action, or inaction. And maybe it's when they spoke harshly to you, maybe you can even break it down to they raised their volume to above, a certain level, above conversational level, right? They raised their voice above conversational level. And they criticized me. So break down the action into its mechanics. Because what we're doing is we're starting to take out the subjectivity. We're starting to look at the trait or the action or the inaction as objective. So now that we have the objective trait or the objective action or inaction that this person did that caused a trigger within you, that caused you to feel a certain way, and it caused you to judge them and label them and minimize them and put them in a box and resent them. You get to feel all sorts of pain when you perceive another person as a limited being. So let's expand up them. I talked about this, how doing this process impacted my judgments of my father, who I had only met 3 times. And I had a huge epiphany. I've talked about that in another podcast. You could find it. Look up the word father on my YouTube. So, you've defined the trait, the action, or the inaction that they've done. Now you want to resolve this conflict with them. You want to, put this thing to bed and find some peace within yourself and maybe with this other person. So what we're doing here is because we're going to break our judgment of them, we're giving them the space to be more than the judgment. We're giving them the space to expand. I mentioned the self-fulfilling prophecy that creates the dynamic, right? There's no space for them to do anything else when you judge them, and they're subconsciously reacting to your judgment, and you're subconsciously reacting to their judgment. There's no space for them to do anything else. So we're going to break the judgment, break the label. We're going to give them the space to be something else. So we have to go to that. We have to go look at the trait or the action and decide what's the opposite. Okay, the opposite would be speaking at a conversational level. Maybe. Speaking kind words. Or calling me back. If the person didn't call you back, the action would be to call you back. Whatever the opposite is to you. It's going to be different for different people, but the opposite to you may be speaking at a conversational level and praising me, saying something positive about me or what I've done. So now you start looking. This is where the discovery process comes in, because you need to go to a moment where you have perceived this person doing the opposite trait, action, or inaction. Your brain's going to go right away, never. No, they've never done it. I don't know. I've only met this person 3 times for 5 minutes each time, like my father. Your brain is going to reject that question initially. So don't give up. It's there. You're just seeing a limited perspective. We're going to open up your perspective. You're going to discover something you didn't know before. So you have to dig. So go to a moment where you perceive this person doing the opposite trait, action, or inaction. You begin the searching process. Close your eyes. Begin searching. From the time you met this person, you can go year by year, moment by moment, searching through. Where have they done the opposite? Where have they done the opposite? You may come up with one answer. Okay, perfect. There you go. Where was it? When was it? Who witnessed this? Perfect. Write that down or think of it. Then go to the next one. Another one. One is not enough. Another moment where you perceive this person doing the opposite. Being kind. Being considerate. Calling you back. Speaking normally. Saying positive praise to you. Go to another moment where you perceive this person doing the opposite. You will uncover memories that you have forgotten about this person, because your reticular activating system is confirming your judgment, your negative judgment of them. So you are bypassing, you're not acknowledging all the times that they have done the opposite. The information is stored in your brain. You just need to find it and make that subconscious information conscious. You'll get hit when you feel a physiological response where you get tears in your eyes and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that I did not see this or acknowledge that this person is just as much the opposite as the initial action portrayed. When you can see that they're balanced, they do both equally. You'll have a heart-opening moment. And when you have this heart-opening moment, something happens on a metaphysical level. They feel it. They may be in another country. They may be in another city. But something will open up. And this is where we kind of get into the metaphysical, spiritual side of this, where our thoughts are creating our relationships. They're affecting our relationships. They're affecting our lives. They're affecting all kinds of things around us that we can't imagine. We just don't imagine very often. So, whether you talk to this person again or you don't talk to them again, or you have to see them every day, doing this exercise is going to change the dynamic. It's going to open up the dynamic between you and that other person. It's going to give them the space to be more than what you decided they were. This is a powerful exercise. You just have to be willing to look. You have to be willing to dig. You have to be willing to have some faith and ask the question. What we don't know, or what is subconscious, it's unconscious. Right? We're in a low state of awareness. So in this case, we would be in a low state of awareness of another person. And whenever we're in a low state of awareness, where we can only see one side of a person, especially the negative side, in this case, we're going to feel pain. We're going to feel, whether that pain comes out as anger or resentment or fear, we're going to feel pain from this low state of awareness. But the moment we start asking these questions that come from an infinite perspective. So when you ask this question, where has this person done the opposite? We're assuming that this person is an infinite being that is all-encompassing, that has all of the traits and has done all of the actions and has done all of the inactions, both positive and negative. So we're looking at things from a total, all-encompassing, infinite perspective. We're saying, when have they done the opposite? This is high level. This is high level perception, high level perspective. Our egos, our personas, our any pleasure we may be taking in being a victim is going to try to stop us from asking this question. But the problem with that is that we stay stuck in our pain and we perpetuate the problem. We perpetuate the dynamic. And the dynamic is going to continue, and it's going to give you more pain and more. The pain is just feedback. Here's your limited perspective. Here's your judgment. Here's some feedback called pain. Okay, keep the judgment going. Here's the dynamic. Here's some more pain. Are you ready to answer the question yet? Here's some more pain. Start looking for when they did the opposite. Here's some more pain. As soon as you have that epiphany, that heart-opening moment, Now you've seen them do the opposite. The pain goes away. The pain subsides and you get tears. You get tears in your eyes. You just balanced out your perception of the other person. You balanced out your judgment of the other person. And it's our judgments that hold us back. They cause those triggers in our lives. They make us afraid to take action. Or they keep us stuck in our anger. All right, they keep us limited. They keep us from learning and they keep us disconnected. And pain is going to keep coming back to you as feedback until you start raising your own awareness. Start asking these questions. So, how to deal with difficult people. There you go. Look at the trait, the action or the inaction that's bothering you. Get an objective on that. Look at the physical mechanics of what they're doing. And look at when they've done the opposite. Okay? Break the label, break the judgment of them. See that they're more than your limited perception, your limited perspective. All right, guys, Life Lessons Podcast. That's all for now. If you're interested in coaching, in life coaching, you can check out my website, spencelifecoaching.com. Okay, bye-bye.